Hey, it's Schmicks,
Speak Bigfoot. And you're listening to
the third floor.
Therefore, man, we just rehearsed that and I'm already forgetting
No,
things.
you're
Oh my
good, man.
goodness.
Well, other
Dude,
than that, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm really good. Just ate a nice, healthy veggie burger dinner and did some laundry. It's been a pretty good day. How about
Right
yourself?
on, right on. I'm doing good. I'm going to turn you up just a little bit. I'm doing good. I just had a bunch of spicy noodles for supper,
Yes.
so maybe my speech will be slurred because I'm trying to recover from them. But no, I'm doing good. It's been like really hot out. Like
Dude.
Saskatchewan has had records set, so
Oh, ew. No.
it's really hot.
Just like you, buddy.
Oh yeah, just
Way to
like me.
go. All
With
right.
the PlayStation hat. That's all I got.
I think we at this point we got to wear one piece of PlayStation clothing per episode. It's just a
Probably a good
running
idea.
running thing right now.
Yeah,
I'll take
yeah.
next week's. Today we're talking about DLC, season passes, battle passes, all things of the sort. Uh, put that on the ground so it doesn't vibrate. That's what we're talking about today, and I think we both have some pretty strong opinions about this stuff. I think so. I actually did my research for this episode. I got a pie chart, and I got articles and a script, and I did my research.
That's hardcore, man.
I know, had time, so
I did what Karens do. I just went on Google and went on YouTube for about 10 minutes and figured out all I needed, you know? Now
of
I can
course,
be a
dude.
medical expert and an expert in gaming.
Of course. And if you're being a Karen, you must love Minions now. So,
Yeah, yeah, that's
Minions,
right.
Minions all the way. Well, I wrote out the script here, and I've got it in a few parts. It's on my screen here, so I'm going back and forth. The first thing I thought I'd talk about real quick is like season passes. Like the season pass, not like a battle pass kind of thing, but like an actual season pass, which is like in the old Call of Duty days. You'd buy the season's pass and get all the DLC for a year. I really want to start with that because I feel like that leads into DLC. So like right off the bat, did you ever get a season pass for a game?
The only season pass I think I've owned legitimately would be Destiny 2.
Okay.
When Shadowkeep dropped last year, so fall of 2019, I got the season pass and I really liked it.
Nice.
The game became free to play, which is why it's justifiable to me. So, I mean, we'll probably get into that later about the difference between a free to play model with a season pass versus buying a game flat out and having a season pass. But for Destiny 2, I found it to be good, and it gave me access to all the activities, and it gave me a bunch of extra weapons on top of what I could have got with the base battle pass system. So they really changed a lot of things around when Shadowkeep came out. So that's probably the only one I've owned, and I got good
Okay.
value out of it for the. I guess I'm 1-for-1, but that's
Okay.
kind of my experience with having it hands on. I have lots of experiences. I've seen other people have troubles with them, but for myself, I can't say anything too bad about my own experience.
Okay. Yeah, see, I'm in the opposite boat. I didn't buy Destiny 2, but I've probably bought like 2 or 3 Call of Duty ones. I bought them for Fallout 4 and Borderlands 3, and like I don't know. I'm a sucker for season passes. So when I'm like, oh yeah, get all the DLC that I'm probably maybe gonna play at a reduced price, give me that. It's sweet loot. So I'm a sucker. I always buy them, which is interesting because like, my first point here is getting all the DLC at a reduced price. So if you do the math, like I'll do Borderlands for example. I think I got the season's pass. Technically, it was included in my pickup of the game or the Super Deluxe Edition. But last time I checked, I think it was like $60. So the way they're working for Borderlands 3, each DLC, there's been 3 and there's a 4th one coming. They're $20 each. So you're looking at $80 price point in Canada versus a $60 price point plus a bit of tax. So for me, I think like, yeah, it's pretty worth it. But at the same time, you're kind of committing to content that hasn't been released yet,
Yeah, and that's one thing I was going to bring up is that
Yeah.
with season passes, a lot of the time you're kind of just investing in the future. So it does depend how you game.
Definitely, and like for example, I'll use Fallout 4 for example. Fallout 4 had like Nuka World, Far Harbor, and the Robot DLC, and then like minor workshop stuff that is if that's not interesting to me, so it's like content I wouldn't have bought anyway. So just purely in the story ones, I think it wasn't worth it. Like Far Harbor was phenomenal. That was worth $20. The other ones were like, it was okay, I guess. Nuka World's
Yeah.
not bad, but like I've committed to content that I either didn't play because it wasn't my thing, or I committed to content that wasn't great. and season passes kind of open the door for that weird kind of like, what am I going to do with this kind of model? Like could be good, could be bad. I don't know. So
Yeah. Yeah. I guess one thing I also thought of is we should probably differentiate when we say season pass and DLC.
yeah,
And like for our viewers, probably most of you game, so oh, if I buy a season pass for Fortnite, you know what that is, or maybe you're brand new to gaming and you're like, what does DLC even stand for? What the heck does that mean?
what is that?
So, yeah, delicious, lightable.
Lovable content.
Yeah, like so. Nick, you want to give us a little breakdown? Tell us kind of the difference between like DLC versus what a season pass is.
Yeah, sure. So DLC is downloadable content. So like if you look at a game like The Witcher, you have the Witcher base game, Witcher 3, and then it came out with two DLCs, two story DLCs, Heart of Stone and of Blood and Wine, and they're additional story content add-on. So like you beat the game, you loved it. You're like, what do I do now? I can replay the game, or there's these other content packs that are either to be released or have come out depending when you're playing the game. So DLC refers to usually like a story-based content, but it could also be something like armor for your horse, if you really wanted that. But primarily, it's like a story campaign or story add-on that you can play as part of like the separate campaign. And then the season pass for like Fortnite, which is also called the Battle Pass sometimes, is like usually it's 100 tiers, 110 tiers. And there's loot. If you buy the premium pass, there's loot at every tier. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that can range from skins, loot packs, weapon charms, skydive trails, emotes, things like that. And if you get the free pass, you get stuff probably to like 25, or you'll get stuff like once every 5 levels. Some games are different. So those are the like two types of things, season pass versus battle pass versus DLC, I guess. And I'm really glad you brought that up because that's a point like I want to touch on a little bit later. But I think it's really important to differentiate a season pass versus a battle pass.
Yeah.
So
and when we say DLC, or more specifically when we say the DLC for this season or a DLC, usually we're talking about a chunk of content that's story based or adds a bunch of new features to the game.
mm-hmm.
Whereas if we say map pack, then we're referring to more of like a Halo 3.
Yeah.
A bunch of maps get released in a package and you buy that specific package. It's still DLC, it's still downloadable content, but a map pack's a little bit different because they're isolated multiplayer maps instead of an actual story or something that builds onto something like The Witcher 3, where you have an RPG that it gets built upon, not just a bunch of extra areas to shoot people in it. So
definitely. And like a game like Call of Duty used to be notorious for that, like buying map pack 1, map pack 2, and like you can still play the multiplayer, no questions asked. But if you get the packs, you're gonna have like drive-in or what are other maps from Black Ops 1? Drive-in or Kowloon, things like that.
Or even Black Ops 1, where they had strictly that zombies one that we always praise because it was really good. It came with all the old World at War zombie maps, but it also came with a brand new one on the moon. And it was so cool. And that's the kind of map packs where I was totally fine with throwing money at it because it gave me enough content that I wasn't feeling like I'm investing for the future. It was more like, here's all the maps I'm going to get. I can play them right away. And it was high quality stuff. It's not like they just threw it together. So that's where you could get a really good bang for your buck, was kind of those, mid 2000s map pack buys all the way up to probably like 2012, which again was kind of our golden era of COD, if you remember back from a few podcasts ago.
That era.
Those map packs for me were definitely worth the money.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm going to actually piggyback off your point where you said 2012 era. And I'll probably circle back around to battle passes and DLC. I want to talk about DLC packs, like map packs or like story content, things like that. So I've got a straw poll I did a straw poll a few nights ago, and I asked people on my friends list and just like general people I knew to vote on this. And even my mom did. So thanks, Sonia. She voted on this.
Nice.
So I'll put it up right here on the screen. Jared and I also have a copy. And my question isn't in front of me, but it was something along the lines of as a gamer, do you feel that you need to purchase the Battle Pass, Season Pass, etc. to get the full value out of your game? And I had 11 votes. 4 people said somewhat agree. 4 people said disagree. I had 1 agree, 1 no opinion, and 1 somewhat disagree. So it's kind of like an even-ish spread. But people either disagreed or they're like, kind of. I don't know if you took the poll or not.
I did. I was gonna say, did you?
I didn't actually.
Answer?
I didn't because I would say somewhat agree, but I didn't want to skew the numbers. So technically, it'd be 5 votes. I would say somewhat agree.
Yeah, that was actually what I voted. Was that I somewhat agree. Sorry if you didn't want me to take the
No, that's okay.
I took it because I figured it would just add some numbers and people would see that people are engaging in it. And yeah, I put somewhat agree for probably the same reasons you would have, because yes, you can play a base game like something like Destiny 2 or Call of Duty, let's say Black Ops 4. You can play those games without DLC. Black Ops 4 for me, I've never bought DLC for. I just have literally the physical disc that I bought a couple years back because there was a good Boxing Day sale. Bought that disc, never bought DLC for it, didn't spend any money on microtransactions, and I still played it, and I still play it to this day. And so I got a lot of bang out of my buck for that. But it's not like I had to go and buy the season pass or a bunch of DLC map packs or cosmetics to enjoy it. But then again, there are games where you really do have to, like a game like World of Warcraft, for instance. You're going to have to invest into that game.
Big time.
I would argue that a game like The Witcher 3, if you want to really understand the story and you want to have the full RPG experience that it shows, you're probably going to have to get the DLC. Yep. And again, this doesn't make it a bad thing. I think The Witcher 3 did really good on that front. And that's why it got Game of the Year awards and all sorts of stuff. So as far as where I sit on that poll, it's because there's games that don't take there's games like Black Ops 4 that you can still play a lot of. But then there's games like The Witcher 3 that if you really want the full experience, you're going to have to do it. So that's why I put somewhat agree.
As a quick side note, I love RPGs. They're my favorite style of game. I have not played Witcher 3. I haven't beaten Witcher 3. I've played maybe cumulatively like 15 hours. I just can't get into it.
Admittedly, I've never played it either. I've only watched, so. It's phenomenal, but I like the story isn't gripping to me. I don't care. The mechanics are great, but again, I don't care. So. I just literally just haven't got into it. It just, I don't play RPGs all the time. It's more like lighter RPGs, with the exception of games like Dragon Age and Skyrim are a little bit denser, but for the most part, just light RPGs for me. So it just wasn't one that grabbed my attention. But again, it's like Game of the Year, so it's a weird one for me to not play, but might at some point. We'll have to see.
Shout out to AC Star 66. It's my dad. He actually beat the crap out of it. He beat the whole game. So yeah, he got one up on me. So getting back on the DLC train, my first thing is, do you think the DLC system is died off? When I say DLC, I mean like story-based DLC. Like for the most part, like map packs, story content, like addable chapters, not things like loot boxes or battle passes. Like primarily like the story stuff. Do you think that's died off?
It might vary from genre to genre. I would say that in a first-person shooter, it's probably dying off. There are exceptions like Destiny 2 where they keep adding more story features like that. I don't know what Halo Infinite's going to look like, so maybe that'll be a game changer where they make it sound like, even the title of it, Halo Infinite, they want to make it kind of this ever-progressing, almost MMO-style story mode, whereas the multiplayer will probably be more of the classic Halo style, like what we know with possibly free DLC map packs is what I'm hoping. But as far as story modes, I would say for shooters, it seems to be dying down quite a bit. Whereas for RPGs, I can't really say that much because I've only played older RPGs. I don't know about newer ones. And I would say that one examples, like Witcher 3, Skyrim, Dragon Age, Inquisition, all those kind of games, they always provide isolated stories that you could play on their own, but really they're just adding on top of the mountain of content that's already there. So I wouldn't be able to really answer it too well, but I would say for shooters it's dying. Other games I'm not too sure.
I'm going to quickly interject. I don't know what's up with my throat, so I keep clearing it. Sorry,
no, you're good.
I don't know.
Good reminder. I got to drink some Wawa.
Got some Wawa here.
Cheers.
So yeah, while you're drinking, I'll jump in. I think the system has died off a bit, with the exception of games like Borderlands 3. I have played. I beat the DLCs. I beat DLC 1, 2, and half of 3. Like the first one was okay. The second one was pretty good, and the third one's been really, really good from the times I played it. That's an example of a game I don't super care about, even though that's one of my favorite series. So, with the exception of games like that, I don't think they're really a thing anymore. Like you're saying, shooters don't have DLC anymore. I mean, it doesn't exist. Like you're not buying a map pack; you just get the maps for free. But
Yeah.
it used to be a huge thing.
Yeah, like Modern Warfare 2, I think had like a DLC portion of it, and you could play extra story missions. But then Black Ops came out, and it's not like they added to this story of what happened with Mason and Reznov. That was an isolated story that ended, and really the real story kind of continued on in Zombies.
Yeah.
So it kind of changed the way they weren't going to affect the story mode of it or make it any kind of RPG elements in a shooter. They just basically said, we'll leave it to Zombies and we'll just keep adding to that.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
Yeah, it definitely took a bit of a change probably in the last 10 years for shooters especially.
Sorry, I'm just putting on Do Not Disturb. Yeah, I agree with you. Shooters have really taken a dive there. I had some examples of games, which is like COD, Assassin's Creed, and Borderlands. Like three titles that have a lot of DLC in them, but like to my knowledge, not any of them has been super great. Like there hasn't been a standout map pack for COD in years because they've ditched it. The Borderlands DLC is not phenomenal. And Assassin's Creed has been adding live events to their games. Bit of DLC, but also a lot of live events, right? So I think games are transitioning more to that way as like games as a service thing.
Yeah.
So, which is very interesting to me because it brings up a second point. There's a couple of games that have free DLC, and I didn't even think about it until Hypersloth brought it up to me this morning when we were chatting about this. He said, well, you got to talk about Red Dead Redemption 2 and GTA 5 because those are two games that have had constantly free DLC forever. There's the only thing you can buy is microtransactions.
Yeah.
So that leads me to think, like, do you think more games should go this way?
Now, Rockstar Games is kind of this monolith that sits out among the peons, and they have the ability to cash in enough with microtransactions and the bare sales of a game. Again, like we said, it's the kind of game that you buy on a million different consoles and different versions and updated versions. So they have that kind of capital that they can make free DLC. So in that case, I think it's a no-brainer for them to do what they're doing. So that's great. And I would like to see more of that. Kind of an obscure example for me that I've put a lot of time into is Halo 5. And they had free DLC. And I mean, the thing that scares me, GTA 5 is a good example of how to use microtransaction funds to fund free DLC. Halo 5 is not a good example.
No.
It launched with the crappiest multiplayer. There was no like social at all. The only social playlist that existed was Warzone, and Warzone was built specifically so that you would burn out on microtransactions, have to buy more and get mommy's credit card and stock up on gold packs. It didn't launch with Forge. It didn't launch with Theater. It didn't launch with it did launch with Theater, but it didn't launch with a Forge at all. It didn't launch with like basic stuff like Big Team Battle and
free for all playlist.
Infection. I think they did have a free for all playlist. Okay. It was cruddy at the time because it was like 8 players instead of 6. So it was just this unfinished mess that they pushed out and kind of made it like, hey, Destiny did it. They kind of made their game better over time. So that's what we're going to do. Oh, and it's free DLC. It's like, well, is it really free though? Because now we have to wait so long and we just paid $80 for an unfinished game, an unfinished Halo game with a cruddy campaign on top of it. So free DLC is good, but we can't see that continually in a way where a game releases like trash and then slowly updates it through DLC, not even story mode DLC, but more like making the DLC, it's being disguised as DLC, but really what it is core game components that should have been there off the start. And they're like, oh, well, it's free. Well, of course Forge is going to be free. We expected that, but we expected it in October. We didn't expect it in April of the next year. So that's a frustrating thing that can happen.
Well, I'm really glad you brought that up because a point I have written down is, does that promote microtransactions? I think we both agree it does. But does it also push out unfinished mess? Yeah, I think so. Like, oh yeah, we'll just fix this in a patch. We'll just fix this in a DLC later. We'll make it free though. It's like, no, but like a game should launch with a split screen. Should launch with a split screen.
Yeah.
A theater, if it's a shooter, maybe Forge, if you're gonna go that route, like should have a base feature into it.
It's kind of like buying a car and then being offered like, oh, you know, like we'll install air conditioning for free, but we're actually you're not gonna have air conditioning throughout the summer. We'll actually install it in September for you.
Yeah,
and it's
great.
like, well, no, I bought this car and it's March.
Yeah.
Well, don't worry, you know, we'll give it to you for free later.
It's coming.
What? Yeah,
No.
like it's 2020. I should have a car with air conditioning. So it just seems like they're stripping core components that should have been there to start with and then prepackaging them as something totally different.
I 100% agree. And I hate that a game does this. A long time ago, Boogie2988 made a video about this, talking about how like you shouldn't pre-order a game, you shouldn't pre-purchase DLC, because it just gives the developer, be like, oh, like they paid for it, we can just flop out whatever we want. We could literally give them a white room of nothing. Like we could literally give them anything if you wanted. And that's gonna fly because we paid for it, right? So I think it's interesting.
Okay, my phone's going off. I'm sorry, guys. Put it on silent. I thought it would shut up. But
apparently not.
That's all right.
So I think it's really interesting that games are doing that, and I hate it. I absolutely hate it. Because like if I'm paying for an $80 game, yes, like it's gonna have bugs and we're gonna have to add fixes and stuff, but like I want a finished product. I want a full finished game.
Like the good old days.
Yeah, like back in the day, like if you buy, I don't know, Super Mario World 2, you know, yeah, it might have bugs in it, but that's the game you bought. There's no DLC.
And that's the way it's stayed ever since.
No, you don't have to buy Luigi. He's in the game. Like, these are things that I hate, which also kind of pays into a quick side, like rabbit trail of like pre-purchase content. Like pre-order the game now and you'll get, you know, the Cold Heart. And which is great. We kind of touched on this earlier, but I hate when a company does that. So they suck money, but then just give it out 5 months later anyway. You know? So I hate when a company will take money and you know, kind of run with that, and then kind of screws everything up.
Yeah, because when it comes to a launch, I think a launch is, at least in the YouTube realm that I've studied, especially with Halo and Destiny and games like Skyrim. When I look at games like those, they need big launches. They need to look good. Like when Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, it can't be a mashed up garbage MMO that's going to try to emulate what ESO did. It's got to be its own thing that is completely ready to go in a versatile, totally different than Skyrim, but in the same way, it has to be ready in a state where you can play it. And it's not going to be bugged out like Fallout 76, where it just needs repairs constantly. And, we'll offer you vault access for, you know, this much. Like stuff like that is ridiculous. And so when that comes out, that launch is so important. And when I look at a game like Halo Infinite, I don't want it to launch like Halo 5. I want it to launch like Halo 3.
Yeah.
Where it's got all the components. And Halo 3, it's not like they've changed the campaign. They haven't changed the way the multiplayer feels. The netcode was always a little bit cruddy with Halo 3, but they actually pretty much kept it as close as that as possible so that newer players could get that same feel. And the battle rifle doesn't feel quite as right, but that's how it's going to stick. And so that's what I would like. I want games to launch fully finished with all the modes, with all the maps, with all the things it needs, and then add to it. Don't take out the engine and then put the engine in later. What you need to do is, you know, here's the car you bought, and you want something frivolous like a bunch of these, you know, cool. You want a spoiler, for instance. Okay, sure, you get the spoiler later on, and that's what people do with cars. You add them on later, and with games that's fine too. If you want to get a cool map pack, I'd probably pay for that. Hopefully it's free DLC, but then at the same time I don't want microtransactions. So it's more of adding to it, not giving us an unfinished product. And I'm kind of scared when I think about games not launching properly, because games that don't launch properly aren't successful on Steam. If they're not successful on Steam, the whole PC marketplace, it'll give up on Halo, and that's what I'm afraid of.
Yep. And I don't want a game to be unfinished. Just if you have to delay it like they did Halo 6, it sucks. But yeah, I as a gamer need to be finished, because I'm not above selling it or returning it. You know, like if you're not gonna give me a finished game, I'm not gonna play it. It's not worth it. I don't want to wait 6 months. I waited 6 months where's my game?
Yeah.
Should launch.
And if that game does come out or it gets updated to the point where it is where it should have been, it's trying to relaunch itself and rebrand itself. And they've already lost half the people that would have been just newcomers that were going to try the game out for fun.
Which is
They'll
interesting.
lose out on the casuals.
Big time. And you know what? I can think of a company that has done this twice now, where they've put out a game, it's not finished, and then they had to relaunch with DLC to make it playable. You know what game I'm talking about?
I think it starts with a D.
I think it ends in an Destiny 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Both times they've made Destiny. Like, I like Destiny 1 and I like Destiny 2. They launched it. It was not super. Destiny 2 was better. They put the 2 DLCs out. Not great. But the third one for both games, and they fixed the whole game. Well, fixed the game. Not the whole game. They fixed it and made it playable.
They got it to a point where it should have launched at.
Yep. Should have had launchable content.
After an entire year had gone by.
Yep.
For both Destiny 1 and Destiny 2.
Twice. So I think when you pre-purchase DLC or when you commit to this, you know, developers like, well, we'll put it out like we said, but no, launch properly. I get it. Like, I'm not a business person, so I know that there's deadlines and profit margins you need to meet, but it's like I know people that'll look at a review or if it's a movie or a video game or whatever, and they're like, oh, if it's not this good, I'm not playing it. I'm just not going to do it. Yeah. So like you just said, if it's under, say, 80%, people are going to be like, nah, I'm not playing that. Sorry. Move on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's what's really scary about the example you bring up with Destiny. And we talk about this all the time because it's not only a game we understand very well, but it's a game that's impacted the way live service games exist today. Destiny affected Halo. It affected Call of Duty. It affected Fortnite, for Pete's sake, the biggest game that has existed in the last couple of years. So it's not like it's a small game. And with Destiny, you can compare the DLCs just about hand for hand. And so if we're going to talk about Destiny, or if we're going to talk about DLCs today, you can't not bring up the fact that those DLCs mirrored each other so well that it's terrifying because Bungie didn't learn their lesson. They did the exact same crap. When Destiny 1 came out, they had that The Dark Below and House of Wolves.
House of Wolves, yep.
And then Destiny 2 comes along and like, okay, let's throw together Curse of Osiris and Warmind. And it's like, you did the same thing.
Yeah.
Content that should have been in the game already. There was actually, some of it was already made. And they extracted it and made sure to sell it later on. Yeah. During the first year of that game's life cycle. And then Forsaken came along for Destiny 2. It was the exact same thing as the Taken King. Just fix the game. Yeah. And then the next one was a little bit more mediocre, but it just added a whole lot more. So that was what it should have been off the start. So the second DLC the first DLC should have been Rise of Iron and Shadowkeep. Those really should have been the first DLCs, but instead they were the fourth ones for both games. Yep. Ridiculous. They didn't learn their lesson.
Right. And which makes me think, I'm assuming they didn't maliciously launch Destiny 2 like that, but it almost makes it seem like they were like, yeah, let's just give them an game, half bake it, and then we'll put out 2 DLCs and fix it with 3. Like, it's just oddly scary.
Yeah. I mean, that's why it's like, well, why wouldn't you just release the game later and have all that stuff so that you don't lose casual people on launch? Because they lost so many casual people. And the only way Destiny was able to get them back really well, get them back was to make it free to play again, just last fall. Yep. But you can only try to right your wrongs so many times before you lose a huge player base.
If they release a Destiny 3, I will not be purchasing it until I've seen reviews.
No,
I can't commit to it, you know?
Thankfully, it looks like they're going to just keep expanding on Destiny 2 for now because the engine works really well. And
it's pretty high end.
So it looks like they're just going to expand on that, which is great. But it scares me because a company as smart as Bungie, a company that was able to launch one of the biggest video game franchises in 2001 with Combat Evolved, if they can be that stupid to redo the mistakes that they did in 2014 and then, it's 2017, let's do the same crap again. If they can't learn in 3 years, it makes me lose a lot of faith in other companies like 343 Industries and Bethesda and Treyarch and Activision. I fear when publishers don't give time to developers. You were bringing that up a little bit because then developers have to get pushed to the max so that publishers can have a monetization system that doesn't even work with the game. And so they have forced DLCs for no reason. And that's when I don't want to buy them. If they're not, if I'm not getting a good bang for my buck, if it's some Activision DLC, I'm not too excited about it, honestly.
You know, you mentioned microtransactions, and that's one of my next points. Um, they're everywhere, and I know they're always going to be there in gaming, but a game like I have 3 written down in specific, or put in specifically. Destiny 2, Fortnite, Apex Legends. They all have a battle pass system. So there's COD. Heck, I think even like PUBG has one now. Everyone's got one. So a battle
Hmm.
pass is like I mentioned earlier, the 100 to 110 tiers, whatever they got, where you get all that loot. Um, you haven't purchased the battle pass, right? I don't think you have.
Well, I mean, the
Besides
the
the Halo or
Destiny 2
the
one would
Destiny.
be the one, and it's like they call it a season pass because it's not just kind of the battle system where it goes up the ranks. It's also access to other activities. But for the
Yeah.
most part, yeah, that's the only one I'm familiar with as a first-hand player.
And I've only bought 2, and they're both Apex Legends. But I find that that's the new system. I feel like that's what developers are going to, and I'm sure we've touched on this earlier in this video. But I think it's what developers are transitioning to. All right, let's just get rid of the $20 price tag. 3 times $60 for DLC. Let's just do battle passes. So Modern
Hmm.
Warfare has been out already for like almost a year, almost, and it's 5th season, right? I'll link this website down below as I will with this article. But I've been there's a website called Slotty Vegas, and I've been running it since we started this, and it uses data from the Nielsen system and another website to project money and see how much companies have made. So it's been simming. As I talk, it goes up even more and more. At 117, 18, 19 days, games like FIFA 2 have made $168 million. That's in 125 days. Modern Warfare, $224 million. And that's just from microtransactions alone.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with sales or
No.
anything that are core components of the games. Those are cosmetics, basically.
Yeah. And that's only after 140 days. So in less than a year, it has made $250 million. According to Dex Airto, using Slotty Vegas and the Nielsen Super Data, Esports Earnings, Social Blade, Forbes, etc. They've roughly pinpointed down that per minute, Call of Duty makes $2,000 rounded up from $1,900, 86 cents, rounded up $2,000 per minute. They
Per
make,
minute.
yeah, they make certain people's paychecks in them. They make more money than some people make in a month right now because of COVID.
Yeah,
In
in
a
a minute
minute.
on microtransactions,
Yeah.
not selling the game or consoles that have the game with it, but just cosmetics.
Yep. And a lot of that is battle passes, loot packs. They don't have loot packs in this one, but they have like bundles, gun skins, things like that. And I feel like that's where a lot of developers are transitioning to,
Yeah, yeah.
they're-
I think free to play is going to be a pretty standard thing, and then like you said, add instead of adding DLC, just add a season pass that will let you have that tier system where you can
yeah.
see yourself every single level. You get some instead of the person on the bottom that only gets one every 5 or so tiers that they go up, and then also give them access to the new maps and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. And so when I did my straw poll, which I'm touching on again, I think my thought was in this, like, do you feel like this game, you have to buy these to have this game be complete? And I was more so referring to things like this, like the Apex Battle Pass. Like, you can play that game free forever. You do not have to buy anything. But you can spend $10 and get more skins, more cool things that set you above other players cosmetically, And I think that's where we're going to go.
Yep.
Sadly, I keep bringing it up, but when I look at numbers like this, like this game Dungeon Fighter Online, I've never heard of, in less than 300 days, less than 250 days, has made $1 billion.
Yeah.
You
Yeah. And
Fortnite, $1 billion.
and to be fair, the publishers and developers are forced to go with what the marketplace is doing.
Yep.
And so if us as consumers, not me personally, but there are people that are spending hundreds of dollars on cosmetics, and then there's people like you and I that barely spend anything on cosmetics,
Yep.
other than the season pass and whatnot. But people that are spending close to thousands of dollars per year on cosmetics, that adds up. And so the market is just kind of following what consumers are doing. And so as long as there's little Timmys with mommy's credit card we're kind of forced to go along with the crowd, sadly.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a modern gaming era is what it is.
Oh, yeah. I'm lucky because I've just been using your credit card. Thanks for all those rec packs, man.
Yeah. No problem, man. I was waiting for you to say, yeah, I'm going to put his card on the screen next to all my different graphs.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Here's how much I spent of Jared's money. No. You know, I think, like, I'm looking at, like, even games like Black Ops 4. They have it on here, and it's still making money. In the last 300 days, it's made almost $400 million. That's an older game, you know, and I see why developers are going this way. Like, I can't say I blame them if I could make, you know, money real fast. So I think it's interesting that we've transitioned away from DLC-based story games to season passes kind of thing. I know DLC is still around, but it's not super there. I have another point I want to talk about. Here's a question for you. Are you more likely to buy a season pass that has 4 guaranteed story packs, or would you buy 4 battle passes? Like for Destiny, they had that package, right, where it came with 4 seasons. And I know it kind of depends on the game you're playing, but if Destiny was like, all right, Jared, we're going to give you $60, you're going to get 4 sweet story DLCs over a year, or you'll get 4 seasons. What are you more likely to play?
If I had to choose between the two, I'd probably take the story stuff, the story DLC. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, when it comes to tiers, it's a good gamification. Like, it's good for our psychology, you know, like all the endorphins when we do finally hit that tier that we wanted that weapon. And I've actually experienced that with the Master Chief Collection. Now they have kind of a way you can switch between Combat Evolved cosmetics that are new and old Halo Reach cosmetics. So I understand that it's good for our brain to experience those endorphins. So yeah, it's good, but it's not good enough for me to choose between a battle pass system and then just having more story content.
Right.
Because first of all, Destiny's story, it's very dry. It needs more. It needs more stuff like Forsaken was, which was awesome, and Taken King. So I would take the story stuff over that, but I can understand why people want those kind of that rush of endorphins to get that big loot at the end of their 100 tier grind or wherever that is located on their battle pass.
Right.
So I'd probably rather with story stuff, but I guess I'm old school. So how about you?
I agree with you. I would land on the 4 story DLCs. I just think I'd rather have the story DLC actually for one big reason. And that's I can play it at my own pace. So I can buy all this Borderlands DLC and not touch it for 4 years. Come back and hop right in. But if I buy 4 seasons and I just say my Xbox breaks or my job picks up, or school picks up, I'm too busy, I missed them. They're gone.
That's a really good point.
And
because there's temporary stuff and then there's what you're talking about where those stories aren't going anywhere. They're sitting there because you paid for them.
Which is like, well, I paid for them and they're gone. So like I'm old school. I like the battle pass system for games like Apex. It's fun to I'm playing it anyway. Okay, I spent $10. I'm gonna get cool skins. Sure, but I would much rather have 4 stories. So I'm actually looking over here because my chart has paused. It has Slutty Vegas has simmed a year. It has simmed one entire year. So it is projecting that in the last 365 days, in the last year, Fortnite has made 1.8 billion. FIFA has made, 790 million. COD's made almost 700 million. So this is a profitable market. I didn't know it was going to pause. That's kind of cool.
I remember when I'd hear people say stuff like, "Oh, the video games, it's probably kind of a dying thing. It's for kids, Like I don't know how people think there's really money in that. Like, all right, buddy, probably should have invested in some companies. If you would have invested in Rockstar, like even just 20 years ago, before things really took off, like San Andreas, you'd be killing it,
sitting on money.
Yeah. So I mean, those numbers they're impressive, but they're also terrifying because that's all money that's being spent on, from what we can tell, mostly cosmetics, just some cool pickaxe and weird stuff just added up over time. Oh, did you say slotty or slutty? Because it sounded like
slotty.
You said slut.
No,
okay.
Like slots.
I figure
slotty.
I figure if our viewers put slutty Vegas into their Google, they might get something interesting. I don't know.
Don't Google that on your mom's computer.
Google it on your dad's computer.
Yeah, a lot better. I just bumped my mic. Should be okay. I know we're kind of winding down here because we're both on a time crunch, but I think the video game world is going in a weird place, and we could talk about loot boxes, and like FIFA is almost $1 billion on player packs. That's a lot of money. Yeah, that's a whole nother topic for another video. But I wanted to close out with one question: do you think games need to have DLC to survive? Like, do you think? And it's not a baiting you question. Do you think it's necessary, or can you have a good game without it?
I've thought about this question before, and I've kind of flip-flopped, but I would say that if games come out that are big enough, I'll use an example like Minecraft, where there's so many possibilities and so many things that can happen, even like GTA 5 Online, where the possibilities are just about endless. I don't know if you need DLC to survive. There are games, like think about all the games, retro games that people play religiously right now.
Mario 64.
Yeah, like it's not like we've had DLC for 40 years. DLC has really only existed in a real commercial way since like probably 2007.
Yeah,
when games Call like Halo 3 and COD 4 came out, and it was just kind of a normal thing to start buying map packs. So it's relatively new to us, at least in the last 13 years, if we're going by that time scale. So I wouldn't say it's needed, but it just depends how the market goes. If we are correct and the gaming era that we're in has to evolve with the times and become free to play with season passes and microtransaction cosmetic stuff, I think it would. But at the same time, if they just started making games the way we used to have them, I don't think they need DLC to survive. I've played old Game Boy Advance games that have never changed, and they're still awesome. So you don't need a base of people playing the game because it's always changing, like a live service like Destiny. You can have a hardcore fan base for something dumb like Paper Mario,
or like Fire Red, no DLC.
Yeah,
huge game. Still played a lot.
Yeah, and so I don't know how to answer it. I would say it's either one of the two possibilities. If gaming goes in the way that we're talking about, where it looks like it's free to play, it would be tough to not have DLC. But if all the publishers just in the snap of a finger just started saying, yeah, take your time, developers, you make the games how you want them. Bungie, you do whatever you want. Bethesda, you do what you want. Like if that actually happened, which it won't, people could make kick-ass games and they wouldn't have to worry a bit about DLC to survive anyway. I think they could have huge fan bases. So I guess it's an answer that's saying it depends on what way gaming era we're in goes.
Yeah, and honestly, I agree with everything you said. Like my answer is maybe. Because like I said, I wasn't trying to bait you into like a yes or a no, but it's like, I mean, maybe. Like you get killer single player games like God of War, where the developers are like, yeah, fuck it, we're not making DLC. You got our game, that's it.
Yeah, and then it's sick.
Yeah, but then you get games that are like pretty good, like phenomenal, like Borderlands 2. But I think, phenomenal game, but like it probably should have had DLC, and it did. It was really good DLC. So I think again, it's a yes and a no. And if you're talking live service, then they might need it to survive. But it's a question I guess we maybe can't answer. It's like a yes and no. It's kind of like a false question, I guess.
It depends. No, I think it's a good question. It's just a question that would be great with foresight. And
I guess we'll
awesome
see.
With hindsight, but we'll just have to wait. I do have one question for you, though. I just thought of this. You were a big World of Warcraft player.
Yeah.
How was DLC for that game? Because I've heard mixed reviews of like how it was kind of like one would be great and then one would be just trash. And how was your experience with World of Warcraft?
So I started in Cataclysm, in Mesa Pandaria, which was like the fourth one. So Classic was good, and then from research I've done, Burning Crusade was super sweet, and then you got Wrath of the Lich King, which was like groundbreaking, and then you got Cataclysm, which was okay, and then you got Pandaria, and they've kind of steadily declined from there. So I didn't mind buying them because I was like, no, I'm buying like a brand new chapter. It's like if I'm buying like Harry Potter 2. I've got Harry Potter 1 already, but I want Harry Potter 2, so I can have them both. So I didn't ever struggle with it. I was like, I did because I was like, this is a lot of money, and I'm a broke college kid, but I need to play this game, and it's addicting. Someone help me. But I think a game like that, I'm okay about DLC because like it's like they're adding a brand new game.
Yeah.
But
And it's the way the game was designed to sell.
yes. But it's challenging to think about because literally what you're doing is paying for it and hoping it's good and hoping you're still gonna play it. Like I bought Battle for Azeroth, the last DLC that came out, and I played like maybe a day and a half of it cumulative time, maybe 2 days cumulative time, like which is a lot. But in like a World of Warcraft mind, that's not a lot.
Yeah.
So I think I'm okay with it, but it's annoying a little bit.
Okay.
So
Just thought I'd ask because I know you are or at least you were a hardcore
miss
World
that
of
game,
Warcraft guy. So.
just a little bit. Like, we miss it.
Do you play WoW Classic at all? Like
no, I've thought about
Okay.
it though, because like my MacBook can run it, this computer can run it, and I've like been hot on it multiple times. And if I didn't have a better half to be like, hey, we should save some money for other things, I would probably be playing it. Not to say she's limiting me. I can do what I want. But I'm like, it's probably not an investment I want to make. It's still $15 a month.
We're just adults now. And
exactly.
Xbox Series X, we'll talk about that another day. But apparently the price is pretty rank. So
ooh, I saw it. And then I was told Dakota, I was like, no, that's a good price. She's like, that's American. And I was like, oh, it's not good. That's a topic for maybe in the next video. Because holy crap, is that not okay?
Yeah, it's very bad.
But
well, this has been great. It's timing out just perfect because I got to go and make some dough.
I'm gonna go and make some dough, but I'm gonna do it in the kitchen.
Cool.
Yeah, man. Thanks for tuning in. I'll link all the Slotty Vegas stuff in the articles down below, and my picture will be somewhere in this video. And
thanks, Nick, for putting the script together and putting all these questions together. You did a lot of research, and like I said last podcast, I really appreciate what you put in because I like that you have passion for all these numbers and these statistics that really put gaming into perspective for us. It's not just this little thing. It's like we are just like a microcosm of what the entire gaming network looks like for a bunch of greedy business owners all the way down to losers like us that talk about different map packs. So it's always interesting what you bring up, dude. I will always research it. I love it. It gives me something to do. Sorry, the script was so up and down. Like I'm reading it back and it's so disjointed, but dude, I couldn't tell. I thought it was awesome. I like it. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and we will see you next week. Take care.